Well, I think that in 1935, when Tom and Elyne were married, and Elyne had only been up here on one visit, so she really didn't know the Upper Murray at that stage. And it must have been really very daunting for her. She must have wondered exactly how she was going to make a life in the Upper Murray. It was isolated. She was a city girl. Her father had been in the army. Some of her childhood had been in England. Yes, she'd always pined to go out into the countryside, but she had never actually lived there. So how was she going to make her life up here? Elyne wrote to write because in Australia's Alps, she describes a trip to the mountains and riding from Dead Horse Gap to the Cascades. And she wrote, just over the other side of the hill, where the burnt remains of a round yard with two very long wings are. Before the bushfire, this had been the best yard in the mountains for catching brumbies. How was this going to realise itself? Her love of adventure and riding and skiing were her two greatest passions, and they provided her with the inspiration which was the essential background to the writing of The Silver Brumby. In The Silver Brumby, the story is told from the horse's perspective. There had been a time once, years and years ago, when four people had come whizzing down the snow-covered ridges with great wooden boards on their feet, and one of them had a lasso and had roped a bay colt. They had been laughing, mad in fact, for all they wanted was to cut off some of his tail to wear plaited and pinned to their coats. This was a legend among wild horses, a tale every foal heard, but it happened a long time ago, and man was not expected in the Cascades till the herds of cattle came for the summer grazing. Interestingly enough, Elyne had a jacket to which those pieces of the horse's tail were pinned. The Silver Brumby and the Silver Brumby's Daughter, and indeed Silver Brumbies of the South, are books that I associate with some of the really happy times of my life. Those books were my bedtime stories. I guess the Silver Brumby taught me to read independently for myself, because I always wanted to know what was going to happen next. By the time the Silver Brumby's Daughter was in manuscript form, indeed I was reading more independently by myself, but I was asking my mother each evening for yet another chapter, and it thrilled me. And then with Silver Brumbies of the South, she was actually writing that book for me, and we shared the story as it evolved. And it was a fabulous experience. And I think I saw at that time Elyne at her most creative, and it was marvellous, and that's how I like to remember her. In her memoir, Tawong Hill, 50 Years on an Upper Murray Cattle Station, Elyne wrote, "Valley and river, mountains brilliant with snow. It is the land that built my heart. This country below the snow and the snow mountains themselves have given me an intangible gift, wider and deeper than the valley itself." By 1989, age was beginning to draw in Elyne's boundaries, more towards home and the Upper Murray. The Upper Murray, in a sense, was becoming rather like the Secret Valley was to Thowra. It was her paradise.